few weekends ago, a buddy of mine came over to use the shop to change the brakes on his Nissan Xterra. I thought when we started it would be pretty routine, but once we got into the job, it was a little different than what I normally see. I change the brakes on all my trucks, and it's pretty routine. So I'm going to whip through that just for anybody with the Nissan Xterra, just to help people see what they're going to run into when they get into this, and a couple special tools that you're going to need to get the job done. The vehicle in this video is a 2002. I believe this procedure and configuration applies to other years. All right, we're going to do the brakes, the calipers, and I believe the bleeding procedure. If you're not interested in any of this, just skip ahead to the part you're probably here to see, which is the hubs. Before you get started to jack the vehicle up, you want to break the nuts loose, then jack it up and remove the nuts, take the tire off. Once you have the tire off, this is what you'll see. All right, we need to get the brake pads and the calipers and all that off the vehicle. In this sequence, we basically take the caliper pins out first. There's one on the top, one on the bottom. I can't remember the socket size, but I don't know, try a couple. You also need a very thin crescent wrench or some kind of means of holding the caliper pin while you take the fastener out. We did the top pin first, but it may be smarter to do the one on the bottom so that the caliper doesn't fall out of position while you're trying to take the bottom one out. After you get the caliper off, you want to use like a C-clamp or something to compress the calipers so that it takes the pressure off the brake pad so you can kind of slip it out. You have to take the cap off of your brake fluid reservoir so you don't hydrolock the brake fluid inside the container while you try to do this. So if you get to this point and your pistons are really hard to compress, or your gators are peeling back, or you see any kind of like weird stuff going on in your calipers, you're probably screwed and you need a new set of calipers. I would recommend that you replace both calipers. Don't do your left or the right only, just because if you put a new one on, may work better than the other one, and then you'll have some weird asymmetric braking, possibly. So again, just recommendation. All right, now you got to get your caliper brackets off. I think Nissan calls them the torque member. So anyway, there's a bolt at the top and a bolt at the bottom. You need to get both of these out. One more reminder, make sure that you don't strip or round the hex on any of these. You want to use good sockets. It may help to use a breaker bar. If you can't get it using a breaker bar, something I've done in the past is you blast it with PB blaster, WD-40, some kind of solvent. If that doesn't work, you could take like a small torch and heat up around the affected area. What it'll do is loosen up whatever grit and grimes inside the nut in the hole, and kind of loosen everything up so it comes out. Also, if you get the part with the hole in it hot, it'll open the hole up and provide some additional clearance to the fastener. So if you get in trouble, you could try that. All right, this is where it gets weird. Basically, you got this hub. It's bolted to the brake disc. And then there's a fastener that has it constrained to the hub assembly. You got to pull the bearings and everything out. It's kind of not something that I've seen before. So you got to pry this little shroud out. It's probably not the best way of doing it with a screwdriver, but then there's these two little screws here. Take those out with the Phillips head screwdriver. You need to pry this little keeper off. We use a flathead for that. Alright, to get the hub assembly off, you need to make this special tool. I think they sell it. You can buy it from Nissan. We were kind of in a pickle, so we went down to the auto parts store. And anyway, this is the closest thing they had to what we needed. I wound up having to grind two of the tangs off using a small belt sander that I had. Also, I had to radius some of the edges and kind of just to reduce the diameter slightly so that it worked on this assembly. I'm sure they sell the exact part you need. You can get it from Nissan. We paid $8 for this, I think. And so it was a good solution, I thought. All right, if you made it this far, take your new made special tool. Get that doodad out of there. And then you have to take the bearing out. And then finally you could pull the disc assembly off. That hub assembly is bolted to the disc. You'll have to take those fasteners out. I wound up using an impact wrench to get the fasteners out. Good luck getting these parts separated. They were pretty much welded together. I wound up using a press to get the other part of the bearing out. And then, like I said, the two parts were stuck together. This is what it looked like. So to get the hub assembly off, I sat this part on top of this big metal stanchion that I already had and dropped this steel block on it to separate the two. I used a piece of hickory in between them to separate. That steel block's probably about 150 pounds, and I got flip-flops on, and I drop it right now, and it didn't go through. I'm going to try it again here, hopefully without dropping it on my toe, and boop, it goes out. And that's how I got it apart. All right, now we're on the downhill slope. All I did at this point was kind of clean everything out. You can see nice and clean. We repacked the grease. Make sure you're using the right grease for this. Get it all up in there. Then you want to put your bearings and everything back in after you get them good and buttered up. And all there really is to do after that is put everything back together and clean everything up. You really don't want any of that grease on your discs. I went ahead and used a press to kind of press the bearings back into place. And voila. We used an impact wrench to put everything back together. Everything, just kind of insert the fasteners and install them in diametrically opposite pairs. Clean off any excess grease with acetone or denatured alcohol, and this is what you wind up wanting to put back on your vehicle. I applied a little bit of the hub spindle, clean it all off, and then just start putting everything back together. This last little roller bearing goes in at this point, and then tighten that doodad back up, put the shroud back on, reinstall the two Phillips screws in place. Oh no, wait, this is where it gets stupid again. So you have to go and use that tool to turn the retainer so that it lines up with these fastener holes. That probably took us about 15 minutes to get right. Okay, so now you can reinstall those Phillips head fasteners and then put that bearing shroud back in place. You can see it there. We tapped it into place with a hammer. This is probably not the best way to do it. You don't want to dent it. We went ahead and fully compressed the calipers. Reinstall the torque member, your caliper brackets, your calipers, the brake pads, all that stuff as usual. Reinstall your tire, and then you're finally done. This is kind of a long-winded video just to basically tell you not to buy a Nissan Xterra. No, I'm kidding. The process is a little bit strange or different than what I'm used to, and so I want to save somebody else some time and agony and show you how I did this repair. If you got anything out of this video, please hit like and also leave a comment. If you hate it, please leave a comment, or if I did anything wrong and you think it needs to be a different way, let us know, and then I guess people could go and read your comment at the bottom. Also, if you like my videos, go ahead and hit subscribe now and hit the little bell so you get notified. Thanks for watching.